She vanished in the most bizarre way imaginable. At first, police thought it was a prank, a cruel hoax designed to get attention. Her family was confused, her friends were shaken, and the community was left asking, why would she do something like this? But just as everyone began to piece the truth together, the story twisted into something no one expected. Because while she had faked her kidnapping once, the next time, it wasn't a game. It was real. And it was far more terrifying than anyone could imagine. Welcome back, my true crime family. And if you're new here, you've just stepped into a space where we unravel the darkest mysteries and the most twisted cases, stories that keep you up at night, questioning how far the human mind can go. Before we dive into this chilling case, make sure you hit subscribe, tap that notification bell, and of course, like this video, because today's story is one you'll want to follow all the way to the very end. Her name was Tasha Green. On the surface, Tasha was the kind of woman who seemed to have it all figured out. She was 28 years old, with a smile that could light up a room. She had grown up in Augusta, Georgia, the youngest of 3 sisters in a tight-knit, church-going family. Her mother, Angela, was a retired schoolteacher, and her father had passed away years earlier. That loss had hit Tasha hard, but it also made her fiercely independent. By the time she was in her mid-20s, Tasha was working as a medical billing clerk at a local clinic. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was stable. She had her own 2-bedroom apartment, she drove a used Toyota Corolla that she was still making payments on, and she was known around the office as the funny one. Always cracking jokes, always making people laugh. But beneath that bubbly exterior, Tasha was restless. She had dreams of something bigger, dreams of becoming an influencer, a public figure, someone who could command attention. She watched YouTube personalities, Instagram models, and reality stars with envy. To her, they weren't just people online, they were proof that ordinary lives could turn extraordinary if you had the right story. And Tasha wanted a story. Friends would later say that she hated feeling invisible. She'd go on social media rants about people not caring, about being overlooked, about how nobody checked on her unless she made noise. Sometimes I feel like I could disappear and nobody would notice, she once wrote in a Facebook post. But people did notice, especially men. Tasha had a complicated love life. She'd been in an on-again, off-again relationship with a local DJ named Reggie Miles. Reggie was charming but unreliable. He wasn't faithful, and everyone knew it. Tasha, though, clung to him in spite of his flaws. She wanted commitment. He wanted freedom. Their relationship was messy, filled with late-night arguments and tearful reconciliations. Her sisters often begged her to walk away, but Tasha had a pattern. When things were bad, she threatened to leave, sometimes even threatened dramatic gestures, like hurting herself, or making Reggie see what it feels like to lose her. And when things calmed down, she'd go right back to him. By early 2019, things had hit a breaking point. Reggie was seeing another woman, and Tasha knew it. She'd been venting online, posting cryptic messages about betrayal, heartbreak, and people not appreciating what they have until it's gone. Then came the idea that would change everything. Nobody knows exactly when it formed in her mind, but those closest to her later said she started talking about it weeks before it happened. What if I just disappeared for a while, she asked her friend Shanice one night over drinks. What if I made people think something happened to me, then they'd care? At first, her friends laughed it off. But Tasha wasn't joking. She wanted to teach Reggie a lesson, she wanted attention from her family, and deep down, she wanted the community to rally around her. So she started planning. It wasn't sophisticated, she didn't have the means to pull off anything elaborate. But she knew one thing, all it took was a phone call. One panicked voice on the other end of the line, one plea for help, and suddenly she wouldn't be invisible anymore. Tasha Green was about to make herself the center of a story. A story that began as a lie, but would end in tragedy. It was the night of April 14, 2019, a Sunday. Augusta was quiet, most people winding down for work the next morning. But at 10:42 p.m., a frantic 911 call came into the Richmond County Sheriff's Office. The voice on the line was trembling, almost hysterical. Please, you have to help me. They've got me, I don't know where I am, please hurry. The dispatcher tried to calm her down, asking her name, her location. The woman's voice cracked through sobs. My name is Tasha Green, please, they're going to kill me. And then, the line went dead. For the next 2 hours, police scrambled. Units were dispatched, traffic cameras checked, patrol cars sweeping the areas Tasha was known to frequent. Her mother Angela, woken up by officers at her front door, was stunned. My baby? Kidnapped? Who would take her? Word spread fast. By morning, #FindTasha was circulating on Facebook. Her sisters shared her photo, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. Local news picked it up, running her picture beside the words missing woman, possible abduction. But as investigators dug into the details, things didn't quite add up. First, Tasha's Toyota Corolla was still parked outside her apartment. The doors were locked, no signs of struggle. Her purse and ID were inside. Second, her neighbors hadn't seen anything unusual, no suspicious vehicles, no strangers hanging around. And then came the big red flag, cell phone records. When detectives subpoenaed Tasha's phone records, they realized the 911 call hadn't come from some unknown burner phone, it had come from Tasha's own cell. And not only that, the signal showed she wasn't moving around the city in a car, as a kidnapped person might be, she had been in the same area the entire time, less than 2 miles from her apartment. By the afternoon, investigators were already suspicious. They confronted her family gently, suggesting the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this was a false alarm. But Angela refused to believe it. My daughter wouldn't lie about something like this. She's in danger. Except, Tasha wasn't in danger. Not yet. Detectives finally located her on April 16, 2 days after the 911 call. She was found in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Augusta, alive and perfectly safe. No kidnappers. No injuries. Just Tasha, sitting on the edge of the bed, wide-eyed when officers stormed the room. At first, she tried to stick to her story, claiming she'd escaped her captors, that she'd been dumped there and left behind. But the evidence was overwhelming. Surveillance footage showed she had checked into the motel by herself, using cash. No one else ever entered the room. Finally, Tasha broke down. I just wanted them to care. I just wanted Reggie to care. Nobody pays attention to me unless something bad happens. The community that had rallied for her felt betrayed. Some were angry, others embarrassed. Her mother was devastated, torn between relief that her daughter was alive and heartbreak that she had lied. And the police? They weren't amused. Filing a false report, wasting resources, staging a hoax, it was all serious. Tasha was arrested and charged with false statements and obstruction. To most, that should have been the end of the story. A woman desperate for attention, caught in her own lies, forced to face the consequences. But what no one knew, not her family, not her friends, not even Tasha herself, was that the story was only beginning. Because less than 3 weeks later, Tasha Green really would disappear. And this time, it wasn't pretend. By the end of April 2019, Tasha Green had become something of a local cautionary tale. Her staged kidnapping had been all over the news, and even though charges were pending, she was back home on bond, trying to slip quietly into her old life. But it wasn't easy. At work, coworkers whispered. Neighbors gave her side-eye when she came and went. On social media, the same people who once posted #FindTasha now mocked her with memes. She had wanted attention, but not like this. The only person who seemed to stick around was Reggie. Maybe out of guilt, maybe out of his own toxic attachment, but he didn't completely cut her off. Their arguments continued, hot and cold, with long stretches of silence followed by late-night calls. On the evening of May 3, 2019, Tasha went out to clear her head. She told her sister she was just running to the gas station for snacks and cigarettes. It should have been a 15-minute trip. But when an hour passed and she hadn't returned, her sister grew worried. By midnight, calls to Tasha's phone went unanswered. Her Corolla, the same one left untouched during her hoax, was later found abandoned on the side of Old McDuffie Road, a stretch of highway lined with woods. The driver's side door was cracked open. Inside, investigators found her purse dumped on the passenger seat, her phone on the floorboard, and her keys still in the ignition. But Tasha was gone. At first, nobody wanted to believe it. Even the police hesitated. Could she be pulling another stunt, they wondered. Is this just another cry for attention? But the signs were different this time. This wasn't controlled. This wasn't neat. There was no motel, no cash transactions, no carefully staged script. This scene was chaotic, rushed, unfinished, terrifyingly real. Her family was frantic. Angela begged the public not to dismiss her daughter's disappearance. Yes, she made a mistake. But this time, this is not a mistake. My baby is really missing. Please, please help us find her. Detectives dug deeper, canvassing the area, pulling surveillance footage from nearby businesses. That's when they caught a chilling clue. At 10:47 p.m., less than a mile from where her car was found, a convenience store camera caught Tasha entering the shop. She bought a soda and chips. On the footage, she looks distracted, checking her phone constantly. She leaves the store and walks to her car. Seconds later, headlights appear behind her. A dark-colored SUV pulls up. The video is grainy, but what's clear is this: someone gets out of that SUV and approaches Tasha's car. There's no sound, no clear view of faces. But within moments, Tasha and that unknown figure disappear from the frame. The Corolla rolls off camera, and that was the last verified sighting of her alive. Now the police had no choice but to treat this as a genuine abduction. But the cruel irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who had once faked her kidnapping was now living the nightmare she had only pretended to. And this time, there would be no easy explanation. From the very beginning, investigators faced a unique challenge: credibility. When someone with a history of lying about being kidnapped suddenly goes missing, the immediate instinct is doubt. Detectives admitted privately that the first 24 hours were clouded by hesitation. Was this another hoax? Was Tasha punishing Reggie? Was she running from her embarrassment? But as the evidence piled up, doubt gave way to dread. The car abandoned with the keys in the ignition. The purse and phone left behind. The grainy convenience store footage showing an unknown figure approaching her. These were not the moves of a woman orchestrating her own disappearance. This was different. And so, the question became, who wanted Tasha gone? Suspect number 1, Reggie Miles. Naturally, the spotlight fell on Reggie. The on-again, off-again boyfriend with a history of fights and jealousy. Detectives brought him in for questioning within 48 hours. Reggie was defensive, even arrogant. He admitted they'd argued earlier that week, but swore he hadn't seen her that night. She probably ran off again, he told detectives. Y'all know how she is. But investigators weren't convinced. They combed through his phone records, his social media, even his DJ gigs. While Reggie had no airtight alibi, surveillance placed him across town at a nightclub during the time Tasha vanished. Witnesses confirmed he was there until after midnight. For now, he was cleared, but suspicion lingered. Suspect number 2, a predator taking advantage. Another theory quickly emerged. What if Tasha's staged kidnapping had made her a target? Her face had been all over the news, her reputation dragged online. Some thought her hoax made her look vulnerable, even reckless. Detectives wondered, had someone out there, someone watching her story unfold, decided to turn her fake abduction into a real one? This theory gained traction when they reviewed the SUV footage. The vehicle didn't match any belonging to friends or family. It was an older model Chevy Tahoe, dark blue, with a broken taillight. Detectives put out a bolo alert, but the SUV seemed to vanish. Suspect number 3, someone close to home. As the days passed, police expanded their net. They interviewed neighbors, co-workers, even casual acquaintances. One detail stood out. A co-worker recalled Tasha complaining about a man who wouldn't leave her alone, a patient's relative who had gotten her number somehow. She had mentioned blocking him, but co-workers weren't sure if the harassment had truly stopped. It was enough to raise alarm. Had Tasha been stalked? And if so, was this abduction premeditated, or a crime of opportunity? The families fight. Meanwhile, Tasha's family fought to keep her case alive in the media. Her mother Angela appeared on local news stations, holding back tears. "I know what my daughter did before. I know she made a mistake. But please, don't let that blind you to the truth. This time, she needs help. This time, she didn't choose this." The community was divided. Some people sympathized, rallying again with renewed urgency. Others sneered, still angry about her hoax. Comments online ranged from, "That poor woman, I hope she's safe," to, "Cry wolf too many times and this is what happens." But detectives knew one thing: Tasha's case was now deadly serious. Every hour that passed without answers reduced the chances of finding her alive. And then, 5 days after her disappearance, the investigation took a chilling turn. A jogger in a wooded area off Old McDuffie Road stumbled upon something half buried in the dirt. It wasn't a body. It was a shoe. A woman's black sneaker. The same style Tasha had been wearing on the convenience store footage. The ground nearby showed drag marks. Whoever had taken Tasha hadn't wanted her to be found. By the end of that week, Augusta was on edge. Patrol cars lined Old McDuffie Road, search dogs combed the woods, helicopters scanned from above. Volunteers joined in, searching fields and creeks with flashlights, calling Tasha's name. But hope was slipping. Then, on May 10th, 7 days after Tasha vanished, investigators received a tip that shifted everything. A local mechanic had seen the news about the dark SUV with a broken taillight. He remembered a customer, an older man, bringing in a blue Chevy Tahoe just days earlier, asking about replacing a smashed rear light. The mechanic gave detectives the man's name, Darnell Price. Darnell was 43 years old, lived alone on the outskirts of Richmond County, and had a criminal record for assault and unlawful restraint from years before. Detectives immediately zeroed in. They surveilled his property, a rundown trailer surrounded by thick woods. And on the third day of surveillance, officers spotted something chilling: Darnell, dragging what looked like a tarp from his SUV toward a shed behind the trailer. That was enough for a search warrant. When the raid came, deputies stormed the property. Inside the shed, the smell hit first. Damp earth, gasoline, and something metallic. In the corner, under layers of plastic and blankets, they found Tasha. Her body was bound with duct tape. Bruises covered her arms and wrists. She had been gone for days. The nightmare was real. The confession. Darnell was arrested on the spot. At first, he denied everything, but confronted with the evidence, he broke down. His confession chilled investigators. He claimed he hadn't planned it, that he just wanted to scare her. He had followed her after seeing her in the news during the hoax. She looked like the kind of girl nobody believed, he told detectives. Easy target. But when he pulled up behind her that night, things spiraled. He forced her into his SUV, drove her to his trailer, and kept her there. When she tried to scream, he silenced her. He admitted he panicked when the search grew larger, and that's when he killed her. It wasn't just murder. It was the cruelest irony imaginable. Tasha, who once faked her own kidnapping, had become prey for a real predator who used her past mistake against her. The fallout. The community was shaken. For Tasha's family, the grief was unbearable. Angela collapsed during the press conference when the sheriff confirmed her daughter's death. Her sisters, who had once begged people to believe Tasha, were now left with a painful reality: they had been right, but it had cost Tasha her life. Reggie, despite all his flaws, wept at her vigil. She didn't deserve this. Nobody does. And the public, so quick to mock her weeks earlier, now found themselves silenced. The joke stopped. The memes vanished. And what remained was the haunting lesson that no matter someone's past, no cry for help should ever be ignored. Darnell Price was charged with kidnapping, murder, and abuse of a corpse. Prosecutors announced they would seek life without parole. For investigators, the case was closed. For Tasha's family, the pain would never end. But for the rest of us, her story was a chilling reminder. Sometimes, the most unbelievable stories are the ones that end in the harshest truth. Tasha's story is one that lingers, a haunting reminder of how quickly a bad decision can be twisted into something no one could have imagined. What do you think? Was Tasha's past mistake the reason the world didn't take her disappearance seriously enough? Or was this tragedy something that no one could have stopped? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this case as unsettling as I did, don't leave without hitting like, subscribing, and turning on that notification bell. Because we have more stories coming that you won't want to miss.